Welcome to Season 3 of Hines On Air, a new space for voices with something to say where conversations are recorded and remembered, hosted by Matt Hines.
Coming at you from Atlanta, Georgia, welcome to Hines On Air. Hey everybody, Matt Hines back at you with another Hines On Air, and I am so excited about today's episode. We have a true expert. This is Dr. Carole Lieberman. She's out of California, and the best way for me I hate reading stuff, but I do want to just read her intro because it's fascinating. She's a board-certified forensic psychiatrist known as America's Psychiatrist, a 3-time Emmy-honored TV personality and best-selling author. She is a trusted expert on true crime, terrorism, and political psychology. True crime, terrorism, and political psychology. That's exciting stuff. So there's a whole lot here to go through. So we'll get right into it. Dr. Lieberman, welcome to the show, and thank you for being here.
Thank you. My pleasure.
All right. So I don't even know where to start. I was reading all this stuff, and it's just, I'm truly interested in your perspective on a lot of different things. Let's see. I know you had said a lot about Trump Derangement Syndrome. So, Yes, I'm familiar with the concept. Yes, I'm familiar for people going through it. I personally, right now, I'm disappointed in a lot of the things Trump's doing. But what do you see from your angle, with your experience and knowledge? How do you diagnose or identify Trump Derangement Syndrome?
Well, I actually have been working on a detailed diagnosis of Trump Derangement Syndrome since March. I didn't expect it to take me this long, but I have to keep adding people as examples. And every week there's a new example. But I'm doing this. I'm doing this because in January, I'm planning on bringing the proposal to the offices of the American Psychiatric Association, which are in Washington, D.C. And the reason why I'm doing this, first of all, the idea is to get the American Psychiatric Association to put it into their next DSM, Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, because it is so prevalent. And I divided it into mild, moderate, and severe cases. And there are so many examples of each. And the reason why it should be included in it's sort of the dictionary of mental illnesses, is because it is really affecting so many people in really bad ways. I mean, people are going, depending upon whether you're mild, moderate, or severe, people are doing things that they would never have thought of that they would have done before. Because it has to do with emotion taking over reason. And so when that happens, people are just, get fixated on this. I mean, for example, people who aren't talking to their relatives, like at Thanksgiving, let's say, where they didn't want to invite their relatives, or they got into a fight with their relatives, or, same thing with the holidays coming up. Or just in an every day-to-day kind of situation. People are getting divorced. I don't know if you do divorce cases, but they have been rising in part due to Trump Derangement Syndrome. One person has it and the other one doesn't, and it affects their marriage. Workplace situations where, people are getting fired, or people are arguing with each other at work. So it's having really devastating consequences. And things like it's about Trump, but it's also about people who are associated with him. This irrational hatred. And so, like, we know that there were these attacks.
Do you think it's irrational?
Yes.
I mean, like, I was optimistic about Trump in the beginning, but when I see him sending money to Israel so they can destroy Palestine, that pisses me off. Like, I don't know that would be characterized as a disease or a condition versus just... Hell, to me, that's kind of obvious. That's a bad decision for him.
Wow. We're going to get, this is a...
yeah, that's a rabbit hole, isn't it?
Well, it's a hot button issue for me,
Yeah.
because I just came home from Israel.
Okay.
I was doing volunteer work over there, and I have been following and talking about the whole, Israel, since October, well, even before October 7th, but I mean, certainly since October 7th, this has been sort of a number one issue for me. Israel got attacked by Hamas terrorists Israel, first of all, there's no such place as Palestine. Second of all, Israel was on that land long before people were using the word Palestine or Palestinian. And it's not genocide. It is trying to protect themselves. So, I don't think, I'm happy about how Trump helped to form this peace plan with Netanyahu, and how at least it's made a temporary stop in the war. I don't think it's going to be permanent because Hamas doesn't really want to lay down their arms, and they just did this to get more terrorists, to get terrorists be released from jails in Israel so that they can then fight for Hamas. So Hamas doesn't really have any intention of going the whole 9 yards with the peace plan.
I disagree with all that, but
Okay.
it's not necessarily, I'll be glad to debate this, but I guess my point earlier was Israel's just one example. Even if it's grabbing up a pregnant mother from Home Depot and deporting her to El Salvadorian prisons or something crazy, like that can be disagreed with without necessarily having a disease or condition. Like, to me, that's just a rational response. Like, I don't want to see that person's lives changed, even if they're here illegally. So what makes it a condition that needs to go in the DSM versus just a natural response to something somebody sees as horrible?
Okay, well, I mean, it's not just discussing these kinds of issues. That doesn't make somebody have that.
Right.
You can't be labeled with TDS just by by disagreeing with things that he's doing. But when it has to do with, like, for example, in the mild case, when it has to do with throwing things at the television when Trump appears, or breaking out into arguments, when he appears, or when you hear the music that he uses in his campaign, or things like that, then you have to, in the DSM, I don't know if do you ever consult the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual for your work?
No.
Okay, well,
I'm familiar with it, but no, ma'am, I'm not. Yeah,
okay.
You can tell me.
So what they have is, for any diagnosis, or for most of the diagnoses, they have you have to have a certain number of symptoms in order to be able to be labeled with that diagnosis. And if it's a situation where it's mild, moderate, severe, you have to, have more of these symptoms. So that's basically how I wrote it out, that for mild, you only have to have one of the symptoms that I mentioned. The way that it differs is that from mild, moderate to severe, the person's life is taken over more and more by their irrational, quasi-psychotic, I call it, hatred of Trump and those who are associated with him. So it's not arguing rationally. And for the treatment that I propose for these things are not where, psychotherapy is part of it, but not where you try to convince the person that they're wrong, because that's not going to go anywhere. They'll just leave therapy. It's where you have to get the person to look at what it is in their life that makes them hate Trump. So, like, for example, people who, for men, and usually in general, for men and women, it has to do with the most likely people to get afflicted with this are people who had problems with authority growing up, starting with their parents, and particularly with their father. And then perhaps, with others, teachers and other authority figures as they go on their life. And then for men also, the typical man who would develop this is a man who feels envy. Trump is sort of the typical, or the not really typical, but stereotypical in a way. I mean, extreme alpha male. And, because it's like what little boys are kind of told that this is what they should be, have a lot of education, have a lot of money, have power, have a beautiful wife, all these stereotypical things that measure the valuing, in a sense, of the man. And then for women, it's women who are like the women who were the pussy hats, in Trump's first, when he got in the first time. Feminist women, college-educated feminist women, are the most likely women to have Trump derangement syndrome.
Okay. So you think it's a real condition?
Yes. And then, it's like, okay, looking at the extreme, Rosie O'Donnell, for example, who moved away, or Ellen DeGeneres, who moved out of the country to get away from Trump. People who let it take over so much of their life. People I mentioned, who attack Teslas. People who, there are even some young women who have put, for college age women, primarily, they have these websites where you can put something about a guy that you've dated, that you know of, that you want to warn other women about. So there have been some women who have put on some bad things about Barron Trump. Leave the poor guy alone. I mean, that's not okay. And certainly they didn't date Barron Trump, but they're just putting things on it. So it's things like that. People who go to extremes, and who can rationally discuss what's a good policy and what's a bad policy.
Okay. I guess my thing, and this is sort of maybe underlies it all, I would say in general, and please feel free to offer me your advice, because I know you've had a lot more experience than me, but society is over-drugged, whether it's Ritalin, whether it's antidepressants and all that. And it's my understanding the way a lot of these drugs are created is it's a committee of psychiatrists, that kind of group. They say, yep, I think that's a condition that ought to be listed in there. It's listed in the DSM, and then the drug companies get to make a new drug to treat that. And then basically you have this just kind of a twisted, connection of it all, where society is now getting more and more drugs, because the DSM has kind of grown in the past, 40 or 50 years from that kind of size to a very thick. You're addicted to internet. You're addicted to that. Like all this stuff.
Yes.
So
that's true.
I would say fundamentally, I don't like creating new diseases for people to be drugged over. I don't know if that's what you're saying or not. I'm throwing that out there.
I haven't suggested a drug for the TDS, except I do say that for people with moderate to severe TDS, if they have certain symptoms associated with it, like delusions or hallucinations or things that medications can treat, then you would consider that. But in general, I am sort of one of the few psychiatrists these days who insists upon doing therapy with people, not just prescribing medications. Our mental health system has gone down the tubes, and it's because over the recent years, insurance companies have decided that it's cheaper for them to pay a psychologist or a social worker to do therapy than it is to pay a psychiatrist, because a psychiatrist has had more years of education. We're MDs. And so psychiatrists realized, well, I won't be able to pay my mortgage if I keep doing, if you do 45 minutes to an hour of therapy, then you can only fit in about 8 patients a day. And that really wasn't enough to keep psychiatrists in business, basically. And so people decided, and this is where, I don't think I was as aware of the numbers of psychiatrists who were doing this until it was too late, I guess. But the psychiatrists surrendered to this. They didn't do anything. They didn't protest. And so now what happens is somebody comes in with some kind of problem. I'm not talking specifically about TDS, but just any kind of psychiatric problem. And now a psychiatrist asks you your symptoms and picks in a drug, from his hat and gives you a prescription.
Yeah.
And then the person goes away, and then you tell them to come back in 3 months or so. It's between 1 month and 6 months. And anyhow, they come back, and then are you better? No, I'm not better. And so, well, what's still wrong? But they don't get to what is the underlying reason for this.
Exactly. Agreed.
Try another pill. So it turns out that people are on 3 or 4 or 5 pills at a time, and they interact with each other, and it is so dangerous. It causes side effects. They each have side effects. I mean, if you're taking 1 or 2 pills, it's not a big deal. And not every patient gets a side effect. But if you're throwing all these different pills in, first of all, it doesn't fix the problem. And second of all, you can be making these people sick. And so people are going around with all of these prescriptions and still being as miserable as they were before they came to see the psychiatrist.
Yes, amen. It warms my heart to hear you say this. I'm glad somebody with your experience and all that you're working on does take that viewpoint, because I certainly agree with you.
Look at Nick Reiner as a prime example. His parents, he's the alleged murderer of his parents. His parents put him in rehab, supposedly 17 rehabs, since he was 15 years old. And he didn't get better. And he hated going to the rehabs. Apparently, I mean, some rehabs are better than others. There are a lot of rehabs that are very good, but there are rehabs that tell their parents to give so tough love, and that doesn't work. That always ends in tragedy. They tell them to just throw the kid out of the house. Tell them, and that's what the Reiners did. I'm not saying they threw him out. He was on the street, homeless a few times, but. They let him, more recently, they let him stay in their guest house, but they kept wanting him to go back to more rehabs, and he kept telling them that they weren't working. I mean, clearly they should have tried better rehabs, but they believed the people. They said they believed the therapists with their diploma on the wall rather than listening to their son. But, you should never tell parents to use tough love with addicts, number one. And number two, I with all the therapy that he got, and apparently there was a family therapist, they did try, and it obviously didn't work. And so they were not seeing somebody who got to the bottom of the problem of their son. So it's really sad, because when you take somebody who has who's sophisticated, a family who's sophisticated, they have all the money in the world, and they could get the best treatment. And yet, they didn't get treatment that got to the bottom of his problems.
What was his problems?
Well, I think his problem, I mean, I never treated him. I wish I had the chance, but
yeah.
It's a number of things. First of all, looking at it psychoanalytically, he has at the bottom of it all, during his childhood, he has an unresolved Oedipal complex, meaning that between the ages of 3 to 7, which is when every little boy wants to marry their mother, so to speak, and kill their father, because their father is the competitor, the rival for their mother's love and attention. Now, I don't mean that they literally want to marry their mother or kill their father, but this is the way that, psychologically, unconsciously they do, because they want more of their mother's attention. So I think that was at the bottom of it. Then, his father was probably not at home that much. He was always, making movies and so on. And his father was such a big character. Like they were big shoes to fill. And he felt very small. Like he said something like that he couldn't, that he felt like his talent and his intelligence and all of that, his qualities were nowhere near what his father's qualities were and how successful his father was.
Right.
And so he did feel envious of his father and angry at his father. One thing that I don't understand is why his father, I mean, maybe he did make attempts to help his son, to help Nick with getting him jobs in Hollywood. Like, I don't know why I don't know whether he ever tried or how much he tried to get him jobs either as an actor or, something on movies or television shows, because I think I think he wanted to follow in his father's footsteps.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I don't really,
that makes sense. I would imagine it's not some chemical imbalance in the brain, but it's like, I try to talk to my dad and he won't speak to me. And that's going to depress somebody. It's going to make you feel bad. Like,
Yes.
duh, like, you know.
But you
Go ahead.
know, also talking about chemicals in the brain. I mean, yes, there are certain chemical changes and so on, but you can't that's what psychiatrists call upon as their excuse for just giving medication,
Right.
putting the chemicals in your brain. Well, it doesn't really work like that. And so in this family, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what medication, but I think that he had an underlying mental illness as well as being addicted. I think, some of his sort of outlandish kinds of acts could be explained by bipolar disorder. And I don't know if he was ever diagnosed with that. So
Okay.
there's a lot of things, a lot of things, despite all the treatment he got, there were things that were missed.
Okay. All right. So I do want to get back to Israel because you opened up a can there, and I'm like, all righty, let's rock and roll. But let me jump to something else on your sheet. You mentioned Luigi Mangione. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Mangione, right? Okay. We all know he's the gentleman or the person allegedly who shot the CEO of the United
Healthcare.
There we go. Healthcare of the insurance company. Now, let me just throw this out there, and you can dissect it and tell me how I'm wrong and whatever. But when you're facing something like that, something like the CEO of United Healthcare, who is very likely extremely corrupt, I think, and there's really nothing you can do about it. You could say, well, go get another insurance company if they're not treating you fairly, or elect representatives that are going to regulate the insurance company better. But none of that's really going to happen. I mean, you could maybe switch, but I don't know how many options there are. And honestly, probably the other company is just as corrupt. You're not going to elect officials that are going to regulate the insurance company because the insurance company is paying the elected officials. So it's like you're kind of stuck with this situation that is completely unfair. And what happens? You're going to push people to do crazy psychotic things. I'm not trying to justify Luigi.
Right.
But how do you analyze it with your experience when you see somebody like Luigi do something like this?
Well, he's an interesting guy,
Yeah.
know. What's also interesting is the reactions of, so many people being his fans.
Yeah,
I mean,
it is.
Besides the women who love him, who want to be his girlfriend or wife, even men who, because so many people, either for themselves or their family members or friends, they have seen how insurance companies don't provide all of the treatment that they need. And this guy was getting, I forget what it was now, $10 million a year or something like that. The executives of these insurance companies get, incredible sums.
Yeah.
Salaries, annual salaries.
Yeah.
Also perks. And so, of course, that's why a lot of people really are behind him for doing something about it, like you're saying, because these other things, you feel so helpless.
Exactly.
He was an interesting guy, he is, he's not dead yet. And I don't think he is going to get the death penalty, really.
You don't?
I don't think so. I hope not.
I'm curious. If I was on that jury, I don't know what I'd do. I mean, I think he did it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's not a legal defense for, well, they kind of deserved it. That's not really a legal defense right now.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm curious to see what happens. I mean, I don't know if there's a sympathizer on that jury pool.
Well, when he was growing up, first of all, it's so you have to feel bad for him. I don't know whether things have changed in very recent times, but I know, like, when he first got arrested and he first started going into court and all that, his family wasn't there. They didn't show up, and I haven't heard that they have shown up since. So they're probably embarrassed, or that they're someone in their family did this, but still, you show up for your family member. Anyhow, I think when he was very young, he was starting to have back problems, and I don't know how much treatment his family got him, really, or how much they just ignored it. He also got Lyme disease when he was around 13 or so. And then when he got to college, um, he talks about, or he wrote about, how his life, because he was pledging for a fraternity, which meant a week of what do you call it? A week of pledging. I forget what you call it.
Like hazing or
Hazing,
all that. Yeah,
hazing.
right.
And so he went through all of that, and that kind of stirred up his Lyme disease. And he said he was in a fog. Now, he's a really brilliant guy. He was valedictorian of his high school.
Right.
He took a lot of, tech courses and things in college, and he got 2 degrees. I think he got a master's degree at the same time as a BA or BS. And so even with his fog from the Lyme disease, he was able to do really well. But then he went to Hawaii, and then he got a job, but then he went to Hawaii. His back problem got worse because he started he was surfing, and then he had an accident. He slipped on a towel or something or other, and his back problems got worse. And then he went and he had back surgery. And at first he thought that it helped it. And then he realized his back was worse, and he was having sex problems, because of his back and all that, sexual performance problems. And so he was, in my opinion, he was realizing that his life was going to be, he wasn't going to have the life he wanted. He wanted to have a life where he was known for something. He idolized in some ways the Unabomber. And he wanted to have that kind of a life, not where he would kill a lot of people, but like where he would rage against society, something in society, like the Unabomber did, and accomplish something and be known for that. Because I think he thought that his life, or at least the kind of life that he wanted, he wasn't going to be able to have that for a while. So he was sort of rushing to do something dramatic that would make a point. And this is what he chose. And so I don't know, and it hasn't come out yet. I don't know if he means it in regard to himself and his back treatment, like he feels, excuse me, that he didn't get enough, that the insurance company didn't give him enough treatment, didn't allow him to have enough treatment, although his family was pretty wealthy.
Right. That's right. That was the paradox.
Yes. They weren't as wealthy, though, as his grandfather, who really had the money, but they had enough to pay treatment if the family thought it was important. So anyhow, I think he thought that the time was ticking and running out for him, and he had to do something, make some kind of a splash to make a point, which he did, really. I mean, look at all the people now who are talking more about how insurance companies cheat us.
That's right. I know it. It had the effect. So you think he thought he was going to die, or he was going to debilitate to a condition where life was just no more fun? Okay, right. I didn't know. Okay, I didn't know about that. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. This doesn't sound connected, but I see it sort of the same. Like, if I was one of the victims of Epstein, or my daughter was, and I see the sort of unfair treatment that the rich and powerful are getting, and the protection and all that, similar to the CEO of this insurance company,
right?
It could drive me to take some sort of vigilante type of action. Like,
yeah,
what do you do when you got just obvious crime and injustice, and there's really nothing you could do because the rich and the powerful are in charge, and they're like, sorry, nothing's going to happen. It's not fair, but guess what? Nothing's going to happen.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes, I understand that.
Yeah,
but this is sort of there's this double. Well, there's this irony. You can't really say. I mean, some people tend to say that there's a double system, that law is two-tier system in law.
Yeah.
And I see that as an expert witness. Like, if people can't afford my services, and I know that I could make all the difference in the world for their case, and yet they can't afford it, and their lawyer doesn't want to advance it for them. That is the most frustrating thing. I love being an expert witness, but I don't like dealing with lawyers and their financial issues. I mean, their idea of how much work you should do. I'm having that right now. I just in the midst of that. A case that I started, and I did a depot, and everything was going really well. It's a case of two women who were arrested for they were false arrest for they claimed, the police claimed that they hijacked a car or carjacked a, and they didn't. In fact, they were the ones who called the police in the first place. And the police came and somehow decided that they were the ones who did it. I mean, like, that makes no sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they were put in jail for 3 months. And so the case is about the emotional distress that they suffered from being in jail for 3 months for a crime they didn't commit. So the lawyer just yesterday actually told me, well, I only want to pay this much for the rest of the case. So you have to, don't do more hours than that. You can see like the conundrum, because I always want to win, and I do generally win. But so you can't win if you don't do enough preparation, enough work. And so it's frustrating when, fortunately that doesn't happen that often, but it's frustrating when you're told, unless you want to do it for free, you can't really do all the work that you need to do. So anyway, yes, there is a 2-tier system.
Yes.
But also on the other side, in some places with this social justice phenomenon, where people who are stealing things, or who are killing people, or you have on the criminal system, you have people who are being taken to jail for all kinds of things, from just shoplifting to murder, and they're getting put out on the street the same day. So they don't have the money, I'm talking about people who don't have the money, and they commit a crime. And now with our system of social justice, they don't need a good lawyer or a good expert witness. They're just let go. So there's that. It's like two competing sorts of systems.
Yeah. I'm a light heart, or I'm a softie. I tend to think too many human beings are in prison right now that don't need to be. I don't know. There was one interesting statistic. One of the big rises, like if you saw the graph, it's kind of going naturally kind of growth, and then it just like that. Massive rise. And the massive rise in incarceration occurred or coincided with privatization of jails. Once they started allowing private ownership of jails, the amount went straight, because they're paid based on the number of people in jail. It's extremely corrupt, but I agree with you going back. There is a 2-tiered system. It is not nearly as fair as I would like it to be, but I don't know. I mean, I have a law firm. I know we talked about it earlier. So we help people who are injured, and we help people who've been arrested. And, we have a lot of people that are in big trouble based on the testimony of one person. And those are facts that might have occurred 5 years ago. That's it. That's the only evidence against our client is testimony for 5 years, facts or incidents that allegedly occurred 5 years ago. Epstein had 40 witnesses to testify against him back in 07 or 06, 07 when he first got it. And he should have gone to jail for like 50 lifetimes. But he got the year, and I think he spent 1 day per week in jail for those crimes. It's horrible. Everybody knows it's unfair. It's kind of, the question right now is what's going to happen? Is anything actually are there going to be any other arrests? We'll see. I don't know. I'm not hopeful.
Well, you see, there's the, what do you think about, Ghislaine Maxwell, where, yes, she did certainly help to recruit all these women and so on, these girls. So she does deserve some punishment. But what about the fact that on the jury, there was this man who had been sexually abused himself, nothing to do with Ghislaine Maxwell, but he apparently was very vocal in the jury room. And he was telling people how, because some of the women who testified didn't remember things. And he told the jury, well, I was sexually abused and I didn't remember things either. That's like PTSD. You don't remember everything. And
Mm-hmm.
okay. Well, and then it turned out that he lied on the jury form when he didn't say that he had been sexually abused. You know what I'm
Oh,
talking
wow.
about?
Yeah.
And yet that wasn't, she didn't win on appeal. I mean, I think that certainly should have been enough for her to win on appeal because that was, that was not right.
I would agree. That's not fair. I don't have any sympathy for her, but I would agree that's a violation that shouldn't happen. Yeah. Do you think she got unfairly treated, Ghislaine?
Well, yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Of course, now she's in a better jail or better prison, and she's apparently happy.
She's got a dog in there, doesn't she? That's what I hear. She can bring her dog and do whatever the hell she wants.
I think I heard something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I've heard that, she was threatening the girls, saying, we're going to kill you and your family if you go to the police. So if she's doing stuff like that to me, I don't have any sympathy for her. I don't see her as an innocent, I don't know.
Well, certainly,
whatever it is.
if she did that was, of course, wrong.
Yeah.
But at the same time, some of those women, I don't know. I don't think they were equal. I mean, I think that, Epstein didn't lock them in a dungeon and keep them there for months on end. They were free to leave all the time. Now, granted, some of them had been abused themselves by their father and uncle or whatever. And so they were sort of, and they were poor, many of them, or they wanted him to do things for them that he did do for some of them. So I don't know. I think some of them, I particularly don't like, what's her name? I have, the one who committed suicide.
It's like Giuffre.
God.
Guthrie
yes,
or Giuffre, something like that. I know you're talking about.
Giuffre,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Virginia Giuffre.
There you go.
And she was really enjoying the media limelight a little too much.
I felt bad for her. To me, that lady probably lived in such fear for her entire life that she was always having to look over her shoulder. I don't know if she committed suicide or if somebody framed that because she just knew too much. I know Giuffre had already settled with her, I think. He'd already paid her millions, right?
I think she got some from him, but also she got millions from Prince Andrew.
Okay, that's right. That might be what I'm thinking about.
Now, I mean, I know that people want to think that she was murdered. I mean, I think Epstein was murdered. I don't think he committed suicide.
I agree.
But she was, and I would say that it would be reasonable to think she was murdered, but she was having problems with her husband. She was like he was very abusive, and she was in this, really, domestic violence marriage. And,
really? I didn't know that.
So she had other things that were making her unhappy, that she could have really committed suicide over.
I got you. That makes sense. This is just me thinking. Not necessarily based on all the facts. I would imagine somebody as powerful as Epstein, and he was powerful, whatever. I mean, this guy's got emails with princes and presidents, and he didn't just know people in the government. He knew the head of governments on all these crazy connections. So he's going to be protected. So if you got some girl who can take him out and take everybody else out, I would imagine she's being hunted all the time. I don't know. It's just crazy the more and more that keeps coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you would think that she would be a candidate for murder.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's interesting. I didn't know about her problems, more close to home with her husband or all.
Yeah, right not long before she died, maybe a month, it was on the internet, it was online that she had an accident, a car accident. Someone was driving her, and the story was that there was this school bus that hit into her car and that she was injured and she went to the hospital. Now, And then at one time she did this recording as she was doing these videos. Yes, I guess TikTok or whatever. And on one of the videos when she was in the hospital, she said, I have kidney failure and I'm going to die soon. And then but then there were pictures of the accident and the bus hardly hit her car. And she was sitting not in the driver's side, but the passenger side. And so that whole car accident thing was questionable. But then later on, it came out that it was something to do possibly with her husband who was beating her up. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, okay. I'm running out of time, but you brought up Israel, and I don't want to. This could take us out into outer space right now if we followed this. I guess my side is, I understand what you're saying. If you'd have come to me in 1967 or whatever and was like, I know you've been living here for a while, but your house, you don't own it anymore. You've got to go. All of y'all, you got to leave. And after I kick you out of all your houses, we're going to control you. You can't vote. You don't have rights. We're going to control the food supply, the water supply, everything about you and suppress you to a point where you don't really have a life. And yeah, that's all you're left with. Tough shit. And so over time, I would imagine living under that kind of suppression, you're going to have people like Hamas that grow out of that kind of frustration and anger. I'm not trying to justify everything Hamas has done, but I do not think Israel's innocent. I don't think it all started with October 7th. I do agree that shouldn't have happened, but that is a boiling point of years and years of mistreatment. So anyway, go ahead. Tell me how I'm wrong.
Israel owned the land first, and then these other people came on it. And for years, when there have been wars, Israel has been giving pieces and pieces of land to these people who start wars with them, not just Hamas. They're surrounded by terrorists, and so they tried, because all they want is peace. So they tried giving parcels of land to these other countries or these terrorists. And including Gaza. And so now, but the thing that Hamas and Gaza have that's better than Israel, they apparently have better PR people, because they have been spreading these lies like what you just said, and people are believing it. And it's just not true, because this started thousands of years ago. It didn't just start in the 20th century.
I don't know that they're lies. I mean, am I wrong? Could I be wrong? Yeah. What I'm saying is based on what I read of what I've heard. So it's possible. But
it's all over the place. What you're saying is
the pictures of devastation and all are fact. I mean, the picture's the picture. So even if they did own it, even if whatever the history is, does that mean Netanyahu can go ahead and destroy 70,000 people, many of which were women and children? I don't think it justifies it. Even if it wasn't theirs, I don't agree. I don't know all of the history, but the response to October 7th is so crazily
out. Okay,
not even with what happened then.
But I watched a press conference, a video online of Netanyahu giving a press conference, like to the world or some press, and he had a map of Israel and the country surrounding it. And he gave this lecture of the history and of how this piece, was from this war that was given up in this war, and this piece was given up in this war, not because the people, wanted those areas, but Israel was trying to placate the people to have peace. And so he made the point that Israel can't go on giving up pieces of itself to try to have peace, because it doesn't work. And the reason why it doesn't work, so he was going to stand firm to not have that happen. And the reason why it doesn't work, and you may have this information, is that, after 9/11, I became the terrorist therapist. And I have been helping people since 9/11 to cope with terrorism. 9/11 and people in London with their 9/11, which was 7/7/2005. I wrote a book that was used as the anniversary book of the first anniversary of their 9/11. And And I went to Manchester in the UK to help them because they've had terror attacks. They had the one with Ariana Grande, the concert that was attacked by terrorists. And Paris, I've been to Paris because one of the books that I wrote, not the one for England, but since then, I've written a book called Lions and Tigers and Terrorists, Oh My, How to Protect Your Child in a Time of Terror. And that book won all these different awards in London and in Paris and so on.
Wow.
So I went to places. And so, and then, of course, after October 7th, I've been doing therapy with Israelis by Zoom. And then just in October, I actually went there and did therapy in person with them. And it was an amazing, the Israelis are so loving and so resilient, so strong. I mean, they've been living with wars for years. And I had one moment of my trip there that was really very dramatic, very, I'll never forget this. I went with a group of 15 people. Well, we all met there. They came from all over the world. These were people in the group who were doing the therapy by Zoom within this group that organized that. And so I was sitting and having lunch with one of the women, and we were sitting at a restaurant in a street in a market where there were no cars that went in that street. There were just tables in the street part of it, and there were restaurants behind the tables. So people were talking and laughing and eating. And, if you were looking at this from afar, you would think that nothing had changed since October 7th. And then all of a sudden, in the midst of this, a siren blared and everything dropped, everything stopped, and everybody was silent. And it was like you could feel the panic. What is this siren coming from? Because you couldn't see anything, like whether it was an ambulance or a fire truck. I don't know what it was, but it certainly brought back the memories of the sirens from October 7th, and everybody just froze.
Yeah,
it was very.
I don't doubt that if I went to Israel right now and started shaking hands and having conversations, I would say, wow, these people are pretty damn nice. They are. So I don't doubt what you said, that they're really nice people. However, when you hear the reports of Israeli snipers shooting Palestinian children as they go to get food, just taking target practice, like not defending themselves, shooting them in the genitals, just for the hell of it. Like, that's a fact. No, that's not twisted. That's what happens. And so there's, oh my gosh, like that's what's going on. It's not a war where we're trying to defend ourselves. This is
Hamas trying. Well, first of all, Hamas does, that's how they deal with the war. They take children or they take people and they use them as human shields.
That's been used. I don't think that doesn't justify what Israel's done. That if they have something where they're but Hamas is not running around holding those children saying, "Ha ha, you can't shoot me," because I haven't seen that. Israel's bombing hospitals. They're bombing like.
Oh, this is not true.
Oh, yes, it is.
It's so upsetting when intelligent people like you.
No, it is. Yes, it is.
I mean, there are lots of intelligent people who have been convinced by this. Okay, here, take this.
No.
Hamas has been saying, that that people in Gaza are starving because Israel disrupted the food coming to them. That is not true.
Yeah.
It's Hamas who has taken the food and then they're selling it to the people in Gaza. But in any case, then when the peace plan came in and there's this détente for some amount of time, all of a sudden when we got to see the Gazans, how come there weren't any skinny Gazans? They were all fat. So if Israel was stealing their food, how did that happen?
You think Gazans are getting food? Why does Israel stop all of the food? Why can Greta Thunberg or whoever try to take food to the Gazans and they're intercepted and stuff? They've been totally mistreated. But I'll tell you this, it is interesting because I don't think you have an agenda. You're very intelligent, obviously, that you see it from a totally different perspective, because I am on the polar opposite end of where you are on this issue, but you're not irrational or anything about it. So, and that's interesting to me because when I see the facts as I've seen them, there's really only one conclusion you could come to, like that Israel. I don't agree with Netanyahu when he says, "Oh, I'm trying to deliver food, but Hamas just steals the food every time." Bullshit, man. He is not trying to deliver food to those people. Why are they shooting journalists? Why would you shoot a journalist that goes in there and tries to investigate what's happening in Gaza? Like,
and journalists are
not one or two, like hundreds.
Not purposely shot. But
Yeah.
okay, but what do you know that Israel, before they went into an area where they would be, fighting, before they did that they would drop pamphlets into the area to tell the people, the Gazans, to get out, that they were coming there. Do you know that?
I do. I am.
Okay, so if they want,
they still smash them with bombs. It's like, hey, we're going to bomb you. There's nowhere really to go, but just so you know, we're coming to bomb, like, indiscriminately.
Okay. Okay. So how come no other?
That was nice of them.
How come no other countries are willing to take the Gazans if they're such nice people and poor little victims? Nobody else wants to take them except Biden wanted to take them. I think he did let some in, but no other country around there. The typical countries, the countries who had taken them in at one time, like longer ago, they don't want them anymore.
Well, I don't know that answer. I don't know enough to know what Qatar's taking about 2,000 of the children, but I don't know. I couldn't tell you why Egypt and all that says no. I don't think it doesn't. It still doesn't justify what they've done. It still doesn't justify bombing those people like they have, destroying their entire country. So anyway, but okay, but I understand where you're coming from. I've actually waited for the opportunity to have this conversation, so I appreciate you bringing that up. And because
I'm totally mad at you because this is what they're putting out, and this is what you and 5 million other people, or more than that,
I think the majority of America agrees with me, though, on this one. I think Israel's losing. Do you know that Israel funds over 390-something of our Congress? Like the AIPAC lobby pays 390 of our senators and congressmen. Like it's the corruption coming out of this entire thing is on a whole nother level. I hope, there's a lot. There's so many changes that have come from.
You just made this point.
Yeah. Okay.
Part of the problem, why people, yes, I would say the majority do believe like you do. And why that is happening is because people don't understand the psychology of terrorists. And that is, and terrorism, what that's all about. It's all about, they believe and they teach their children from the time they're 3 or 4 years old to believe that they need to destroy Israel and kill Jews so that when they arrive in heaven and risk their life doing this, so that when they get to heaven, Allah is going to reward them. And that's what kids learn from the time they're toddlers. And that's why we have terrorism. But, it's not just what people don't understand that it's not just Israel and it's not just Jews. What they are led to believe is that it's anybody who doesn't believe in radical Islam. So it's Christians, it's Hindus, it's any religion other than radical Islam. So people, who think it's just a Jewish problem, like for example, the thing in Bondi just recently.
Right.
People who, that should be a tipping point where we do more to protect America against terrorists. I have a podcast called The Terrorist Therapist Show. And I've had it for, I don't know, almost 10 years now. And I've been warning people from the beginning about how terrorists want to kill everybody who doesn't believe in their religion. And so it's going to be all kinds of people. It's not just the Jews. And it's been falling on deaf ears, apparently. Look, they elected a mayor in New York, 9/11, Twin Towers, and they elect a terrorist as mayor.
Oh, come on, Dr. Lieberman. He's not a terrorist. He didn't win because of the religion or anything. He won because he's communicating to the people and telling them what they want to hear. They're broke. He says, I'm going to help you because you're broke and you need affordability. So I don't think it was any more of a twisted meaning,
yes. And so they overlook the part, all his connections to terrorism. And he's putting terrorists in
but what are those connections? His religion?
No, besides that, his history of people who he has worked with, and he's putting people in his in the seats of his government who are terrorists. And like the latest one, I just tweeted about this yesterday. He appointed a man, I don't remember his name, but he's a lawyer, and he represented terrorists, and he represented the guy who was who created the Palestinian protests at Columbia. And some other connection to terrorists too. And he gave this guy one of the top positions in his cabinet. I mean, New York is not going to know what hit them. I'm
curious. I am truly curious, not skeptically, I'm curious to see how it goes. Like, I don't know that he can do all the tax things that he's promising. I don't think the millionaires or the billionaires are going to agree to increase their taxes. But I'm curious to see, like, he wants free busing. Okay, is that going to destroy the city? Or he wants, I think, 5 grocery stores that are government run. Is that truly going to help the poor? I don't know. I'm curious. I don't think he's evil, though. I don't think he's evil. I think he truly wants to help.
I do. You'll have to have me on again when
that's the deal.
Destroyed. I was born and bred in New York, so this is really painful to me. That he was elected.
I got you. I understand.
Like, I can't. I mean, I have a harder time still believing it. Like, people were smart when I was growing up in New York.
From the outside, to me, seeing somebody like that escaped me. Who was his main rival? Mamdani's rival, the Cuomo. When I see Cuomo, I see status quo, establishment, same shit. We're gonna get this guy who's married to the mob, not mob literally, but he's connected with all that, and he's not looking out for everybody. And so I would want to change. Not necessarily a socialist, but something new, something different.
Sure.
So that's kind of how I saw it.
Yes, I agree. That's part of why Mamdani won, because there was really nothing good that was opposing him.
That's true. Yeah, I agree. All right. Well, this is Dr. Lieberman. I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I hope, I don't think we offended each other. It's just fun that my opinions were not against you. It's sort of just in general kind of how I feel on different things. But I certainly value your opinion. I appreciate your knowledge and experience. I know you've applied this knowledge a lot, which makes it fascinating. You're not just in theory. You've actually done it and used it and seen how it affects people. So, greatly appreciate you being on the show.
Well, thank you. I enjoyed it very well.
Yes, ma'am. And I wouldn't mind, let's, if as things happen in the world, there's not many people that actually get engaged, that know as much as you do, that can offer this kind of insight. So we might invite you in the future if you're interested. We can kind of play that by ear.
Absolutely. Sure.
Okay, cool. All right, Dr. Lieberman, thank you. And everybody else, thank you very much for listening. Please leave us a comment if you agree with what was said, disagree, you want to contribute to the conversation. Please leave us a comment. Like this, share it with your friends, and we will see you on the next Hines On Air.